Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Day by Day Performance Podcast. My name is Patrick, and I'm going to be talking you through today's podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about what a certified mental performance consultant is. Otherwise known as a CMPC, the Certified Mental Performance Consultant is a certification through an organization called the Association for Applied Sports Psychology, otherwise known as ASP. I want to share a disclaimer that the contents of this podcast are intended for educational and informational purposes only. The thoughts and opinions expressed are solely my own and do not represent the official positions of my employer, my university, or any related organizations. Nothing shared in this podcast should be considered mental health treatment, clinical advice, or medical guidance. While we discuss topics related to performance, well-being, and psychology, the information is not a substitute for working with a qualified professional. Listeners should consult the appropriate licensed providers for individualized support. Thank you. So now we've got a couple of acronyms out of the way. I want to talk about things as ASP and the CMPC. The Association for Applied Sports Psychology offers the CMPC to all of its members, both students and professionals. So what the CMPC kind of grants you is the qualification, the education, and the credibility to know that you are a qualified mental performance consultant to be working with athletic populations. So if you're listening today, you might be a student who's interested in sports psychology, not sure what certifications and qualifications look like in the field. That's okay, right? The ASP website is a really, really great resource for you to learn more about this. And so whatever you're hearing today, fact check it, go to the ASP website and read more about it, because there's so many more minute details and things like that. But as it pertains to getting certification as a certified mental performance consultant, there are a bunch of different criteria you must meet, right? Well, given that mental performance isn't exactly a licensed field, so essentially there's nothing saying that I can't call myself a mental performance coach or a mental performance consultant or a mindset trainer or a whole host of names. Whereas in the world, if you called yourself a psychologist, you will get in trouble if you aren't an actual psychologist, right? This is something where technically there's no grounds to limit that in the same way that other professions have. So given that, it can be really tricky when navigating as a client, but also as a practitioner. It's important that you know what these certifications offer, because then you know what you're qualified and capable and competent of discussing. So first thing I want to talk about is the different criteria in which people must meet education-wise to become a certified mental performance consultant. And so there are 8 different categories. They call them Ks. It's like knowledge areas, right? These are all found on the ASP website, so feel free to go check that out. And so the 8 different domains that you have to have background in educationally, a lot of them come with graduate level education. All right. So these are classes you may be taking during a master's degree, a doctoral program, or some in undergrad, depending on the knowledge area. And so the first one, K1, is about professional ethical standards. I think that's super important that it's also listed first. I'm not sure if there's an order and hierarchy of how they sparse things out, but I appreciate that the first one is about ethics, because this is kind of showing that ethics are the forefront of the work we do. If we're not engaging in ethical ways, we are therefore putting our clients at risk, and that is unethical. To be putting our clients in unnecessary risk, that is kind of crossing boundaries, blurring lines, having multiple relationships that don't fit, aren't appropriate, that kind of thing, that can get really, really tricky really, really fast. So ethics being at the forefront is so, so important. So they require you to have an ethics course, being able to know what are the codes of ethics between ASP, maybe the APA or other governing bodies and associations that have information about how to ethically practice. These are kind of the guardrails that keep us in check to make sure that professionals and folks in the industry aren't veering off and engaging in more shady behavior, shady business, or just unadvisable practice. Sometimes ethical misconduct isn't always something that's coming out of a malicious place. Sometimes it can be just a matter of a lack of awareness or an inattention to detail. Sometimes those things happen, but having an ethics course in your background, in your back pocket, that's going to help you as a kind of a safeguard. The next area of knowledge base that you need to have is K2. It's sports psychology. What a shock, right? The sports psychology certification needs a sports psychology background. Yeah. So this requires now 3 courses within sports psychology at the graduate level. And what I think is really cool about this is that, yes, you can get through some of the Ks with 1 course, but this one requires 3, right? You got to have knowledge, substantial knowledge within sports psychology to be able to obtain your certified mental performance consultant certification, right? That is important. So if you're thinking about what kind of courses apply, the website does a really good job breaking it down, running through what applies, what doesn't. But for myself, applying to be a certified mental performance consultant here in the near future, that's going to involve my sports psychology theories classes. That's going to involve my applications classes. Those are going to be the things that I'm putting on this application. And it's helpful because then the foundational knowledge and skills that go into sports psychology. We don't want people talking about imagery, visualization, self-talk, self-efficacy theory without having any training and background in that. That kind of dips into the first part of ethical behavior. Again, as I'm going through these, please cross-reference, double-check me, go see what the updated, most current standards are on the Association for Applied Sports Psychology's website. That's going to be what you really should rely on. This is hopefully just a little sneak peek as to what it looks like at the time that I'm recording this. But also just for the ease of listening, if you're driving to work, driving to school, on a train, on a bus, walking, running, whatever, hopefully this is a little more convenient to give you a little preview of what it might look like before you do some research and some digging on your own. So the next field that is important to have knowledge in is sports science. These are something that might be more foundational with an exercise science degree or within a kinesiology department. So if you're a student that's in psychology and psychology alone, you're going to want to look for coursework that also dips into maybe more of the kinesiology-based backgrounds. You can get effective sports science education in that. If you're coming in with a bachelor's degree in exercise science as you go into the master's programs or doctoral programs out there, you're probably in a good spot with this knowledge area because sports science is pretty foundational within the roots of most kinesiology programs, given what I know in my experience as a student. The fourth domain that's important to have knowledge in is psychopathology. With a background in psychopathology, you're going to be able to help recognize symptoms within clients that you can then help them get appropriate care for. While the Certified Mental Performance Consultant does not make you a licensed mental health provider on its own, you can have it in tandem. You can be a licensed professional counselor and a Certified Mental Performance Consultant, but the two aren't the same. They're different. There's different requirements for each. One's a license, one's a certification. So the Certified Mental Performance Consultant is not responsible or ethically able independently to practice with mental health diagnostics, concerns, treatment like that. That is something where if you're a CMPC and that's the certification you have, and you have a client who's, wanting to come in and seek therapy, they're like, yeah, I really want to have talk therapy for my anxiety. That's where you want to kind of start checking yourself and saying, okay, what is this for? Is this more sport performance-based anxiety? Is this my generalized anxiety disorder-ish behaviors, right? Having at least a general understanding of psychopathology will help with being able to parse out what does this kind of fit within my competency range, right? I'm pursuing licensure as a psychologist so that I'll be able to kind of, filter through and triage that process and then continue working with them so I don't have to refer out. But also there's plenty of instances where high-level organizations like within professional sports might have mental health providers and certified mental performance consultants independently on the staff, right? And those departments work really, really well with kind of referring folks in and over across departments within the department to be able to receive the care they need. Because sometimes if you have a high caseload in a certain department, in a certain organization, being able to refer clients for mental health concerns to a mental health therapist or a licensed practitioner that's going to be more helpful, whereas others can focus more on mental performance and that enhancement. Again, that's all organizationally up to different groups. So you'll notice different teams, different organizations do different things. And that's independent of the strength or quality of certified mental performance consultants. That's more of just personal style and preference. But what's important is that by knowing psychopathology at the basis and knowing warning signs, symptoms, maybe different presenting concerns, you'll be able to better help your clients, whether it's with referral or identification of issues that might be present. Okay. If I don't know what depression looks like, it's going to be hard for me to be able to support a client who may be experiencing depressive symptoms or something related to that. Right. And I don't want to misidentify things when talking about things with clients. As with many things, with any best next step, if you're ever uncertain, a common answer I've been learning about is supervision, supervision, supervision. Seek consultation from a supervisor, somebody who may have more experience and expertise, or just another listening ear who has competency within your area, such as a sports psychology professional, if you're in the sports psychology field, right? If you're in the strength conditioning field, if you're seeking supervision, you're going to go talk to another strength coach. That all makes sense. Seek supervision when you need help. The next area, K5, that's for helping relationships. And so helping relationships is a domain that part of it covers this foundational element of helping skills. So if you've taken a graduate level course in the foundations of counseling or counseling techniques, that's going to be probably a good fit for this kind of domain. This is something where you're going to want to make sure that you have the basis of listening skills, attending skills, tracking, being able to follow a client, find those edges in what they're saying and follow them, track them, and support them while empathizing them. You know, it's important that we are attending to the client's needs, and we won't know how to do that if we don't know how to listen. Some people might think that's so basic, but that's such a foundational skill that I don't know of programs that really don't have foundational listening skills, foundational counseling technique skills in their programs, especially if you're looking into more of like the counseling realm. But this is proof that it matters for certified mental performance consultants because we're listeners, right? We're here to help process the thoughts that our clients and athletes are experiencing and being able to put them in more digestible ways and kind of spit it back out to them and say, is this what you're seeing? Because this is what I'm hearing, right? Being able to even reflect emotion, there's so much weight in that, so much power in that if you don't have that basis, it's going to be a really hard time to be competent, qualified, and have returning clients and athletes. So the next domain is K6. It's about research methods and statistics. I know some people might be like, oh God, research, I just want to do applied. Well, it's important that we acknowledge what we're good at and what our strengths are, but also what the field needs. Okay. And so being able to bridge the scientist to practitioner gap that's been present, but also the practice to science gap that's been present. There have been some really awesome presentations at the two previous ASP national conferences in Las Vegas and in Montreal discussing both the science to practice gap, but then vice versa, the practice to science gap, and how we can kind of blend research to research what applied folks are looking for and applied folks to apply what research is putting out, right? So what we mean by that is you got to be able to know, if you're an applied practitioner, how to understand and comprehend research so that you can effectively administer the findings. So say we have a study and this study says that every Tuesday it rains. You know, if I don't know how to read and comprehend research, I'm not going to be able to communicate with whatever group I'm working with that, oh, every Tuesday it rains. And then what will happen? We will get to Tuesday, it will be raining, and we'll be a little unprepared, right? But if I were competent in research, I could say, hey, I know that Tuesdays it rains, so I'm going to bring my umbrella. Very hypothetical, theoretical situation there. But point being, you need to know how to read and comprehend research, also look at statistics, see what that means, being able to understand that and then apply it. That's what's going to be helpful as an applied practitioner. If you're more of that research route, that's a very helpful basis to have as research methods and statistics. But a lot of this, I think, does a really good job at highlighting the importance of bridging the science to practice gap, because in the end of the day, we're all working together trying to deliver the best, most accurate, most up-to-date and research-backed information to our clients and to our athletes, because that's why we're advancing science. It's how we're evolving care. But it's important that we do that as a collaborative effort. And so this is a way that's really helpful to do that, is by addressing research methods and statistics in every certified mental performance consultant. The next domain is psychological foundations of behavior. So psychological foundations of behavior kind of go into the basis of human behavior, whether it be behavior change or modification or things like that. What elicits change in folks, knowing what factors can influence that, how maybe the environment can be a factor within that. Understanding how humans work and how humans behave is essential to change behavior and to promote healthy behavior, positive behaviors, ones that are supportive for the client's values and needs. If we don't understand that, it's going to be pretty challenging to get much progress at all. Last domain I want to talk about is diversity and culture, K8. So diversity and culture is important because it's a part of everything we do in our daily lives, right? I can't go anywhere without having my culture represented and being a part of me. It's important that as consultants, we recognize our cultural backgrounds, which includes our biases, our upbringings, our values, those things that are essential to us. We acknowledge how they may influence the relationship that we have with our athlete, with our client, right? And vice versa, acknowledging what the client might be bringing into room while being open-minded and aware of what we may not know. Okay, so there's this element of humility that matters, but having an understanding of culture and diversity at the basis is important for anyone working in this kind of field, because culture is a part of everything we do. Diversity is a part of everything we do. It isn't simply a checkbox that you check off. It's an active practice you engage with every single day to make sure that you are being ethical, you are being respectful, you are being conscious of other people's cultures, identities, and values. So the next thing on the list is the qualifications. Kind of hinted at it earlier, but you need a master's or a master's degree or a doctoral degree. You need all of the prerequisites in the K1, 2, all the way through 8. But you do need a master's level education or doctoral level education to sit for the Certified Mental Performance Consultant exam. That being said, before you can sit for this exam, you have to get hours documented. Okay, so what do these hours look like? And there's a variety of hours. It's one thing if you're in a system or a program where you just get a bunch of direct client-facing hours. That's fantastic, but there's more to it than that, right? There's more to being a certified mental performance consultant than that, and vice versa. It's awesome if you're embedded within a team, but you never talk to athletes, right? You just are always there. You're always a helping hand. You're supporting us all the time. Well, that's not sufficient either, right? You need some direct hours. And so the way they've got it broken down is that we have direct hours, we have support hours, and we have supervision hours, right? All in total, you need 400 hours cumulative of experience, mentored experience, that you can then put forth to the application committee and say, hey, or the certification committee and say, hey, I'd like to apply for this. I would like to be a certified mental performance consultant. Here's my information. Here's what I've got. And in this, you're going to have 200 direct hours. And this is as of December 2025. And so things might have changed by the time you're listening to this. Again, throughout this whole thing, it's important you check the Association for Applied Sports Psychology's website. That will have the most up-to-date information and probably some FAQs about things that may be unclear from what I'm sharing today. But you need 200 direct hours. So these are going to be those client-facing hours. Maybe this is in the form of workshops that you're delivering to groups. Maybe this is in the form of one-on-one sessions. These are going to be those direct contact hours with clients or athletes that you're putting towards your certification. You need 200 of them, okay? Next, we have support hours. You need 150 hours of support. Now, support kind of varies in what that looks like, but a good understanding is if you are supporting and creating workshops, or if you're receiving different supervision, but you're just sitting in and observing, right? These observation hours. A really easy and common way that you're able to obtain these hours is if you're working with a team or you're embedded within an organization, showing up to practice. being able to go to practice, observe the behaviors that are exhibited at practice. So that way you can help plan workshops better, target your interventions more to be better applied. Like if I'm having a team that's struggling with focus, why would it be relevant that I just go blindly and say, yeah, we're going to talk about confidence? If focus is a big need of ours, now I'm all for, double dipping and things influence the other, but if focus is our need, we need to know that. And so how are we going to know that if we're never there, right? Granted, there are ways if clients tell you and things like that, but a great way to get hours in the support realm is by going to practice, right? Showing up. That's a great way to get those hours, both for the stat sheet per se of submitting things, but also for the experience that you're getting and the rapport you're able to build. Because in my experience, when I've shown up to practices, that's when I've gained a lot of rapport and trust with clients, right? Being able to discuss different things that I'm seeing on the field or ask questions about the game that's being played, right? I came from a running background. I love sports. I'm an avid sports fan, but quite frankly, I don't know all the ins and outs of every sport. Who does? So being able to ask your clients and ask athletes, ask athletic trainers, maybe some strength staff or coaches on the sidelines, right? Those kind of things, really helpful for building relationships that then help you with your direct side of things, not just for the hours documenting purposes, but for the experience overall and the competency you gain. The last thing I want to talk about is mentorship hours. So you need 50 of them. And now this varies in what the mentorship looks like. So I'm not going to get too in the weeds about what the mentorship looks like, because some of it is individual supervision. Some of it is direct knowledge of you doing your work. So maybe it's somebody sitting in on a workshop. That's your mentor. Maybe it is recording a session that is with the consent of the client that is shared with the mentor, the person who is supervising you, right? Sometimes this is in the format of group supervision. So if you're in a program or you're in working with a certified mentor through the Association for Applied Sports Psychology, that can help you get to your hours, apply for certification, sit for the exam. Maybe you're in a group setting with other folks and you're learning about case studies that are being presented and kind of we're talking shop, we're working through things and we're figuring out what might be a helpful intervention. Those are also supervision hours. So that's kind of a brief overview of what the certified mental performance consultant entails as far as achieving that. But at the end of the day, you have to apply and you have to sit for an exam. Okay. I haven't done that yet. So we're in the process of doing that currently. And it takes time. You want to make sure you have all your materials prepared. My biggest recommendation for anybody who hasn't started going through things or who has is document your things well, right? Document your hours well, be on top of these things and check yourself regularly that it's being documented correctly. So that way, when you're going back, you're reviewing, you're summarizing, you're compiling your hours, that it's in a way that is going to be easy for you. Reduce your headache by being organized in the start of things, so that on the end of things, you'll be able to kind of tie things up with a bow and it won't be too stressful. Because quite frankly, if I started direct hours 2 years ago, I'm not going to remember what I did necessarily without taking notes, without documenting things. So document your stuff, ask for supervision. That's pretty much the basis for if you get nothing else out of today's episode, get those two things. But if you have questions about what it means to be a certified mental performance consultant, know that I am not currently one at the time of this recording. And so you should, as always, refer to the resources that I'm going to provide in the description. So this would be the Association for Applied Sports Psychology's website, as well as feeling free to reach out to anybody there and ask questions. I've known the Association for Applied Sports Psychology to be a super welcoming and supportive space. And so I think it's fantastic. So I have my own biases there, but I think that is a really helpful resource for folks who are also looking to get in the field. Because I remember when I was going through school, when I was an undergrad and I was looking at, maybe I want to do sports psychology. What's this about? The Association for Applied Sports Psychology was the place that I went to. And it provided a lot of great information. I was able to go to my first conference virtually, even during a pandemic, they were able to host, right? And then I've been able to go to some conferences in person and really spread my wings and kind of grow myself both in the presentations of posters or the likes of that, but also with meeting folks, connecting within the field and learning, is this the place I want to be? And for me, that answer is, yeah, it is. So that's going to wrap up for today. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out or use the resources in the description. Take care, and I hope this helps. Hey, it's Patrick. Thanks for listening to the Day by Day Performance Podcast. If you're interested in learning more, go ahead and click the description on whatever you're listening to. You can find all the bios, links, and references from today's episode. Until the next time, hope you enjoyed the episode and keep taking things day by day.